Yo, what's up, warriors? Welcome back to another psychopath exposure video. I am Kita, and I am here with a survivor, or as I'd like to say, thriver of narcissistic abuse. He's no longer a survivor, he's a thriver now.
We're on the other side.
Turned his life around. Yes, that's right. Living on the other side of narcissistic abuse. I like the way that sounds. Living on the other side of narcissistic abuse.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
The other side of the wall. It's
Paradise is waiting for you on the other side. I just wanted to bring him on the show, on the Psychopath Exposure Anti-Narcissist show, and talk about the recovery process, because there's a lot of content out there about narcissistic abuse, but there's not a lot of information about what to do after. Once you've been educated about what you went through and why your brain is toxified. I mean, I remember in my situation when I finally realized what had happened, I was working with a mentor at the time, and I got all the answers that I had been searching for. Things started making sense.
Yep.
But then it's like, what do you do with that information? Are you going to go and try and get revenge with a psychopath? You
exactly. Now that I know, now what? You know, that's like the question. It's like, okay, I get it, but now what? What comes next?
Dan and I met 5-6 years ago.
5 years ago, and what's funny about this is it was, you know, at a self-development seminar. So we met under very positive circumstances with the best intentions of being in control of our lives and going forward in a positive manner. And, you know, we wound up living in the same building about 2 years after that, bumped into each other there. But, you know, in that in-between period, we were always going out and trying to apply content like this content that you're searching for and seeing on the web. But positive stuff, trying to improve ourselves, improve our social skills, improve our dating lives, go out and expose ourselves to the world and just learn and grow. And when you go through that process, you can come into contact with a lot of great stuff, which we were at the very beginning. And we were getting better at it, and we were trying to start spreading, you know, positive content that could help other people progress their lives as well. We were getting to a good spot. And then right when it seemed we had crossed some threshold into making our own content, trying to grow this circle of people, start bringing them in and just really start spreading a message about getting better in life and, you know, ways that you can do that and really improve. You run into a wall, and that wall is called the narcissist psychopath.
And
the
that
black
wall,
unicorn of the universe.
that black unicorn will derail you for years if you don't know what if you don't know what happened. We lost contact. We met about 5 years ago, and we did a lot of cool stuff together. But then we lost contact. We lost contact for a long time. And during that time, I was going through my demonic possession at the hands of my ex-psychopath.
Yep.
And little did I know.
Little did he know. I actually met my psychopath probably about a year after we moved into the same building. And, you know, Kita had known me as somebody who was on his grind, who was trying to progress in life and was trying to move forward. And when I first moved in, we ran into each other in the building. It was like, oh, you know, Dan's doing well. Dan's on his shit. And then a year later, when I met my psychopath actually at a work event.
What the hell is a psychopath doing at a work event? They're not trying to self-improve.
They're there, as Maverick in Top Gun would say, for a target-rich environment. They're, you know, the leeches go where the legs are and the blood are. So
they're scoping out their next victim.
Exactly. She didn't work there. She didn't work for my company. She was just there as a friend. You know, I later figured out part of, you know, that friend was part of her little, what do we call it? Their cheer club, so much to say. You know, one of the people that they're
flying monkeys.
Yeah, they socially leech off of, because the narcissist always has their fan club, and she was part of it. So that's how they wound up there. But back to, you know, me and Kita, I saw him at one point, and we were in the gym, and I don't even remember what I said because I was so deep in it, but I remember immediately seeing him and being like, oh, he represents the positive shit I used to do with my life. And I was like, I'm not into that. I hang out with this girl now. That's pretty much what it amounted to. And I was like, I'm going to the clubs. We're like doing drugs. Like, that's what I do. And he was like, okay. I think it was so bad. He was like, I can't even engage.
But that is true. I felt like That wasn't the same Dan that I remember.
I was also about 40 pounds heavier. And
it wasn't healthy.
Somebody who was
it wasn't
athletic.
healthy. It wasn't a healthy 40 pounds heavier either.
No, it was bad. Like very white skin.
I was like, dude, this is not the Dan that I remember that was all about self-development and it was about, becoming your greatest version. Who are you? And I really didn't want to hang out.
No.
Like I never, hey, let's go. Never. It was like
you didn't follow up.
I was like, I don't resonate with that vibe. I feel something's up.
The interesting thing about it was, I had moved down to the city that we're in, and the only people who knew the previous positive version of me had wound up moving out of that city, and he was one of the only ones who remembered prior Dan. So the people that were in my immediate life had only seen me, met me and been part of my life as I was doing this downturn. So they just thought of me as somebody who was tanking before he even showed up. So in that interaction, he came in as like the only person outside of the narcissist psychopath abyss that remembered prior me. I was barely holding on to a memory of it, of my own identity, just sitting there like, no, this isn't you. And obviously
it was a night and day. You were a totally different person, dude.
Yeah, I was gone. I wasn't there.
And it made no sense to me how that even happened to someone like you, because you've always been on top of your game, on top of your exercise, top of your fitness. I remember you were doing advertising, and you were on top of that. You were fired up about that.
Yeah.
And you were totally bought in to the self-development and to self-growth. You were totally bought into that. It wasn't a facade. It wasn't a fad. That was you.
Yeah.
You lived, breathed, and what's the third part of that?
Lived, breathed, drank, ate, slept.
That was all Dan.
Yeah.
And what I was seeing, was this party dude just out of his mind that I couldn't resonate with anymore. The last thing I thought was that you would be involved with a toxic person like this. I thought maybe you just got tired of the grind, tired of the hustle.
Yeah.
I didn't inquire. It was just, you try to fill in the blanks yourself instead of asking questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's what led to the next phase, of our story, when I think I finally asked the question.
I had made a choice to try to like start taking some steps forward. And it was a miracle that I was even in the gym at that point. I think I was, albeit quite hungover. And she had made her final exit, so to say. I had been discarded probably a month ago, and all I was sitting with in my life was what my life had become at that point. I had gotten to the point where I realized I needed to completely let go of her. I think it was in like March or something, and she did the discard right after Christmas at the beginning of January, when she gave me knives for Christmas, which I later realized was to give me the option to kill myself. So yeah, that's straight out of a freaking movie. And she told me it's because I love American Psycho so much that she gave it to me. But I'm like, no, I know exactly what you did. You gave me the means.
American Psycho being the film, which American, which is a comedy movie.
Yes.
About a psychopath with what's the actor's name who played Batman? Christian Bale.
Bale as Patrick Bateman.
It's a really funny movie.
Yeah, it's actually a comedy, which most people don't get.
But I find that ironic. I find that ironic.
Another funny thing about movies is the first night we hooked up, I've told you this, we watched Fatal Attraction.
Oh, no.
That's literally what she picked. And I was like, yes, great movie.
Okay,
I love it.
Did she picked it?
Yeah. She was like flipping through and she's like, oh, a Fatal Attraction. Let's do it. And I'm like,
I don't believe that's a coincidence.
Not at all.
My psychopath ex would pick every time it was her turn to pick a movie for us to watch.
Yeah.
It was always a movie where there was a woman psychopath that was torturing the main character.
Yeah.
Whether it was an anime that we would watch or an actual Hollywood, film, or sometimes foreign films, there was always a psychopath involved. Now, I didn't find it weird at all. I like dramas. I like horror movies. I like, movies that make you think. I like that. It's entertainment. That's why shows like Dexter or so popular.
That's why people watch
it. Psychopathy gets romanticized in Hollywood. So yeah, I didn't find
a reason for that too.
There is, and we'll get there. It doesn't surprise me now, but when I was learning about this, it scared the shit out of me, because I was like, wow, she was showing me, she was projecting, she was revealing her true colors, and just enjoying the show. She would ask me, "So how do you feel? Do you relate? Do you relate with the main character at all? Like tell me." She would always ask me questions like that. And I remember a few weeks before the grand finale, before the discard phase, you would say.
Yeah.
We were watching something, and she blatantly asked me if that didn't relate with what was going on in my life right now, like to the detail. Where I called her out, and I was like, "Yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
That's who you think is me. That's what you've turned me into." And yada yada yada. I'll make a video about that, and I'll let you guys know what film it was. It was scary. Fatal Attraction is a scary movie.
Let's just say our date night started out as a movie, and you didn't get to the title sequence until it said Fatal Attraction, which was a warning sign to me. Like, motherfucker, get ready. I probably just told you that she had lived with me for a month and then just disappeared. And then right before I went home for Christmas, we spent the night together. She kissed me before I got on my plane and was like, "Oh my God, things are at such a great place." Then didn't hear from her for 6 days as she's posting Instagram stories about her partying around our city. And then she saw me when we got back, and I asked her what had happened. And she just sits down on my couch, like crosses her legs, just like Charlize Theron in freaking Fatal Attraction, and is like, "Well, I realized that you don't have any friends, and I'm the only person in your life. And I just needed to distance myself from that," as she gives me fucking knives for Christmas.
Who the fuck sends you off on your Uber on Christmas
and says, "We're in such a good place. Oh my God, goodbye."
And leaves you just so high and so comforted, to say the least. And
yeah.
You feel comfortable that your girl and you're in good terms. You're going, it's the holidays. You have all these plans, future plans together.
Yeah, knows I'm going to go home and see my family and be like, "Hey," because they had known about her, obviously. Because I had been like, "She's so amazing. She's the greatest girl. I wish I could bring her to Christmas." Fucking showed. Yeah, so
and then vanishes.
She knows that.
And then vanishes.
And then, bam, gone, leaving me on red and fucking WhatsApp. Even texting me on the airport home, like on my layover flight. Like, "Oh yeah, like show me pictures of the food you got." Completely interested. The moment I hit the ground, done. Leaves me alone in like my parents' house.
How long were you?
I was there for 2 weeks, and I didn't hear back from her until I got back home, which was December 30th. And I knew that she would be out for fucking 2 days straight on New Year's Eve. So I spent it trying to fall asleep before midnight, was woken up by the fireworks, and then just kept watching her stories because I couldn't fucking sleep because I know she's out at the fucking club all night.
They know that you're going to be looking at their stories.
Yeah.
They know that you're going to be looking at everything that they post on social media to get answers, for you to figure out why they aren't calling you. But you see, the toxicity about this is that you're seeing they're not contacting you. They're ghosting you right now. But you think that they're home, maybe doing something, maybe something happened. You start worrying that maybe they got killed, maybe they got kidnapped. Your brain starts coming up with all sorts of solutions, and then you see that they're partying with other people on their social media, and they don't even have the courtesy to shoot you a text.
Dude, nothing tells you more that you've descended into craziness and darkness than Googling somebody's name obituary because you haven't heard from them in 2 weeks, which literally, I look back at the behavior now, and obviously it makes you question, like, was I the crazy one? But no, you're not, because
you're not
that conversation
You're not
before.
No, you're not the crazy one.
You were
whatsoever.
lured into that type of
exactly.
behavior. You were pushed over the brink, and they know that, and that's what they love about it.
I want to talk about the huge red flag that I'm seeing right now. When you're dating someone, you should not be entertaining these maddening
that possibility.
thoughts. I mean, obituaries. Do you understand? I mean, I get it. You love her. You're worried. But now you find out that they're okay.
But also, it's a person with bizarre enough behavior that somehow I had become attracted to, that it was a possibility. And how do you let that into your life and still keep them there?
The question is, and this is not a reflection of any of us who were victims, but the question is, why would you stay with someone after you realized that they were okay, they were not dead, they weren't hospitalized, they were perfectly fine, they just ghosted you and they started partying with other people, and yet we stayed in the relationship after all this? That is unacceptable behavior. You understand? A healthy relationship does not go through these crazy scenarios.
Like a normal breakup text is to say, when you go out on the weekends, I get nervous that you're dead. I can't do this anymore. Normal people say, I can't do that.
Right. And normal, and your partner would probably want to have a conversation to put you at ease. Hey, you know what? You don't have to worry about me anymore. We're not together anymore. I'm going to be fine. Thank you, but I'm going to be fine. They'll tell you something. They'll put you at ease.
Yeah.
But a psychopath is doing this on purpose. They want you to worry because that's draining you of your energy. And it's narcissistic supply to them.
Yes.
Because they feed off of watching their victims suffer and watching their victims fall apart so they can come in and extract whatever they want.
I mean, and they're out at the club seeing that you've seen the story that they just posted, and that's equal to cocaine for them, basically. It's just massive.
That's why we should never check who's looking at our stories on Instagram, because it gives you a little shot of dopamine.
It does. It's bad. Terrible, despicable behavior.
And you don't even know if they're looking at it. They could be just flipping.
Yeah.
Which is probably what most people do.
But he's making a bit of a joke because I'm training myself off of that right now. It's part of the process.
Yeah. We all know how it feels to have brain fog. We all know how it feels to be in that dark place where you don't know what the fuck's going on. You're trying to figure out why your girlfriend is acting this way. Why do you feel this way? You've been through breakups before. You've had your heart broken before, but this is a little different. You were telling me things that she did.
Yeah.
And I recognized them right away as, narcissistic patterns.
And he starts saying, and then she did, after like two of them, I would start another story and then it'd be like, and then she did this. And I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, tell me another thing. I'm like, she did this, this, this. And he's like, and then she did this. And I'm like, yeah.
That's
and he's
it.
like, narcissist, psychopath. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I just went through it. He's like, here's what we're going to freaking do. It's like, listen to this book. I'm going to run you through it. And we stood there and talked for
2 hours.
2 hours in the gym.
I haven't talked to this guy this long.
Ever.
And I've known you. And we used to go out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk to you this much.
No.
We spoke for 2 hours. I get all passionate because I'm remembering I saw the same look in your eyes that my mentor probably saw in mine.
Yeah.
When he started completing my sentences. And I saw how you took that deep breath that you hadn't taken probably since Christmas when she disappeared.
Yeah.
And that took me right back to the beginning.
Taking it again right now. Like, Jesus.
Right?
Like,
It feels great.
That happened. It's still, yeah. My God. It was like, the only way I can describe it is, like the Romans used to build arches, and there are keystones, and my life used to have an arch that made sense and was supported by things. But slowly what they do is they brick by brick chop shit out until it knocks things down. And I had kept trying to rebuild my framework of my life and how things had gone, and tried to say there's something wrong with her, not me. And I could never place the keystone at the top to hold it all together. And it would come crumbling down, and I would start blaming myself. Still advocating for her being the one who was correct. And
that's narcissistic enabling.
Yes. I didn't know that at the time. But
that's not your fault either.
No.
That's part of the programming.
Yeah.
That's part of the programming. See, the thing is that the reason I get passionate about this is because we learn about what's going on. I've worked with so many people, and the majority of them do at the beginning, they do not want to accept it. And that's what keeps you stuck. You accepted it immediately.
Immediately.
There wasn't. I was expecting for him to just, after the end of the conversation, to just come back and be like, I'm going to give her another chance. I'm going to call her, or, I'll let you know. I'm going to make a few more, some bullshit. None of that.
I think he gave me Psychopath free. I went and listened to it for 4 hours on Audible. And I'm like, let's meet by the pool. Like, we spoke from like 11 to 1. We were hanging out at 6 p.m. and I'm like, I fucking get it.
You read the whole book like in a day, right?
Yeah, it was just I read the whole thing just like and I'm like, Keto, let's meet downstairs right now. I get it. And I'm just like bam, 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 bam. Because I'm a writer by trade. Like I do advertising. I study films. I understand how one thing can influence all of these different things.
Yeah.
And once he dropped the fucking keystone in at the top and something held up an arch, I was like, oh. And I watched all of my other things just slowly
everything starts making
themselves.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And I completely accepted it because, one, I had no other option. And two, I knew in my heart that I was right. That there was something off about her and not me. But that's the debate that they want to lock you in on the discard forever. And that's why we have material like this to show you that it's not you, it's them.
You can go an eternity wondering what happened. You can remarry, you can have kids. I've worked with people that have a brand new family and they're still telling me that they still love their ex-husband. And I get it. That psychopath must have done a hell of a job.
Yep.
But at the same time, and I know this is a little intense, but once you know what your partner was, once you know what your ex-spouse was, if you don't do the work on recovery, it's like knowledge taking up real estate in your brain. Knowledge is good. You get answers to those burning questions that you had for a long time. But if you stay there and you don't do anything with it,
it's also like it's like being at a video game and there's 8 levels, but you only know that there's 7, and you ran around the 7th level for a while. You got your ass kicked, but then eventually you beat the boss, and the boss gives you the key to the 8th level, but you're afraid to leave the 7th level because it's all you knew. Yeah. But all there is at that 7th level is a bunch of burned down shit.
Yeah, because you get excited. You start replaying level 6 and level 5 again.
Yep.
You're like, oh, now I know where everything makes sense. That's great. That's part of the recovery. You have to do that.
Yes, you do.
But paradise is in level 8.
Yeah.
To use your analogy, paradise is waiting for you in level 8. The good life is awaiting for you in that next level. And this psychopathy that you just went through gave you that key.
Yeah, it gives you the key.
And then you can go and become that's when you can really become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
That's when you can really go after all your goals, all your dreams, and conquer them. And then the hoovering psychopath, when they're going to see, because, they like to see how their victims are doing, then it eats away at them. They're going to be like, look at them. They're kicking ass. They hate that. One of the best way you can get a revenge on a narcissist is just crush it at life.
Yeah.
Just crush it at life.
Yeah.
Expose them, tell everybody about it, laugh about it. Once you're able to laugh, it takes time, but once you're able to actually find this funny, laugh. Because they're garbage.
They are. And I'm honestly at this point, it's something we've talked about consistently too, as he's helped me with recovery for the past year and a half, is like, now that we know this stuff, then what do we do? And I think we realized, we just had a discussion last week where we really started realizing that there is that 8th level and we hold the key, but you have to use the key and you got to let go at level 7.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's tell everybody now the shift between that conversation and a year and a half later.
Whew.
How is Dan now versus the Dan from the gym that Saturday morning, a year and a half ago later?
The Dan from the gym that Saturday morning was basically realizing he had to go into recovery for drug and alcohol abuse because of the stuff that I went through with the narcissist. Mind you, this is somebody who didn't even smoke weed in college. I drank, but it's not like I was I was into that kind of behavior at all. It was a pattern that only developed when I met her. So realizing that, I was on the downward trajectory of my career. Things weren't going well. But now, a year and a half later, I'm clean. I have a job lined up in New York City. I'm going to be leaving our city down here, going up there, starting the next step in my career. I'm in the best shape I've been in the last 7 years. I finally wake up every morning feeling like there is a life that I want to live and that I can go out there and make it for myself. Because for a long time there, and this dude helped me out with it, it's just going through day to day, realizing I think a big step is not regret, but disappointment and, having to get over the fact that you lost whatever time period in your life it may have been that you lost. For me, it was about, luckily 9 months is all that I lost to it of actually being in that relationship with the psychopath. A lot of you watching this may have 20 years invested in this. And that's the biggest thing that to get over at the beginning is how much did I lose? And then once you realize that in the time you're spending thinking how much did I lose, you're only losing more, then you got to let go of that. And then you start thinking, okay, I actually want to be alive and I want to do good things. What are some of those? And then when you start re-engaging in those behaviors, you realize how far you've fallen. And it's like, shit, well, I'm not as in good shape as I used to be. Like, I'm not as good at work as I used to be. Shit, I got to rebuild myself up again. But, I liken it to Bruce Wayne in the movie Batman. Is it The Dark Knight?
Which Batman?
The Dark Knight Rises with Bane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Where, he's Batman. He's awesome. He runs the fucking world, but then
Batman is awesome. Let's repeat that. Batman
is awesome. You can be Batman. But Bruce Wayne falls into the pit, that prison.
Joker's awesome too, but he's a fucking psychopath.
He is a psychopath, but he represents the agent of chaos.
He's romanticized a lot. Harley Quinn's cool too, but she's a fucking psychopath.
They are. Harley Quinn, massive. Joker turns her.
Yeah.
Anyways, you fall as from being Batman into that prison in the basement where the only way you can, or not the basement, the prison that's the giant pit. The only way you can get out, it's in darkness and you have to climb towards the light. And they call it this impossible climb. But Bruce Wayne sits down there with a broken back, rehabs his broken back, and starts pounding out push-ups. And if you make the climb, the only way you can make it is without the rope. They give you a safety rope.
Without the safety rope.
They give you a safety rope, so if you fall, you survive. But the only way you can actually make it is without the rope because the rope stops you from making the final jump. So that's an epic thing to think about. But I just started thinking of that because I'm like, that's pretty fucking awesome. If I turn this from like, oh, I'm a guy who, got knocked down by a psychopath girl that, I met and then we went out to a club a bunch of times. So I'm like, damn, dude, like, are you ever going to go to a club again with that attitude and meet someone? No. But then I'm like, no, I'm fucking Bruce Wayne who climbed out of the impossible pit without a rope. That's the attitude that I just started taking into everything. And I'm like, I don't care how bad something I do is in terms of, the quality of my creative work. I'm like, if I did something, it's better than not doing something and ruminating on how good I could have been if I didn't lose that time. So yeah, climb out of the pit.
I love that analogy. And I love that whole scene because Bruce Wayne tries to jump out early when he's put there, but he's not ready.
No.
He had to build his body and his confidence and his spirit.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell everybody. If you want to go out there and confront the psychopath because you figured out what they were and you have all this rage and all this anger, if you go too soon, first of all, I don't advocate anybody going after that.
No.
Because
that's how you wind up in a movie that's about bad things.
Yes. Yeah. It's not gonna turn out how you probably envision.
No.
It worked out for me though, but that's for another video.
Yeah.
But if you're not ready, if your spirit's not ready, they're going to crush you, and they're going to crush you 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Luke Skywalker going off to face Vader in Empire Strikes Back, and he hadn't completed his training. He wasn't a Jedi. What happened to him?
Slices off his arm.
But then what happens in Return of the Jedi?
He gets his arm back.
And that's because why?
He trained with Yoda. You got to find the coach. You got to find the master.
You have
somebody has to.
You got to train. You got to be ready. You got to be ready. And you know what? Once you're ready, you're probably not going to want to go seek them out because you're going to use that energy into yourself to build yourself and just, your career, your goals, your dreams, your family. But if they ever do show up, you're ready to take them down.
To call them for what they are.
Yeah.
You now have this gift to detect it. Any other relationship or person that you come across for the rest of your life. And yes, we're in paradise after it, but we're also in paradise with detection for things that could take us out of it. And a lot of people, basically it's like when Adam and Eve were walking around the Garden of Eden, didn't know they were naked, but then they ate the forbidden apple and all of a sudden they had clothes on. For us, it's like we walked around the Garden of Eden, didn't know that there was evil out there. We ate the forbidden apple and now we could fucking see it. So it's actually like the good forbidden apple.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. That's how I view it now. I'm like, dude, I will have a much greater marriage one day. I'll have much greater kids one day because this happened. If this never happened, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I'm thankful for it at this point.
The psychopath can go to hell, but I am grateful.
Yeah.
For it happening because it awoke in me a greater version. You know, we always want to be the best version, but I didn't know that this version even existed. It was so much greater. It's at another frequency. It's at a much higher paradigm. We were once victims.
Yeah.
But now we're volunteers if we stay in that environment. Okay? If you have to put to use what you've learned. If you don't, then you're basically a volunteer.
Yeah.
If you date another psychopath, if you date another narcissist, it's not like you're going to know that they're a narcissist right away because they're covert. But once you start seeing the red flags, if you don't do anything about it, you're a fucking volunteer at this point. I'm sorry. We went through this. We all go through this. We're learning, we're healing, we're recovering. But now the responsibility falls on us to take action.
Yeah.
You see a red flag, you have to call it out.
Exactly.
Are you gonna be the old version of you again and go through the same nightmare again? Have you not learned your lesson? Do you want to die again? You know how it felt? It felt like death, right? You lost the zest to live.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through that again?
No.
So when
Not
it
at all.
comes, you will be ready. I have met so many narcissists after my experience with my psychopath ex, and the minute I see the red flags, the minute I see the gaslighting, the minute I see any type of manipulation or attempt to throw me off or to use me for anything, I call them out. I call them out with pleasure, in detail, calm, cool, and collected, not as passionate as I am right now, because that will show reaction. You can't do that. That's what they want.
Can't.
Calm, cool, and collected. You're doing this. This is unacceptable. Get the fuck out of my house. Grab your shit. Block whatever I got to do. And it's like another notch on my wall of validation.
So you're right.
That I learned my
and
lesson.
not them.
Right. And that I'm not going to go through this hell again. And that's the gift. That's the beauty about this. So you become fearless.
I don't even know how I was alive. That like every day when we first met under tenses of the psychopath being in my life and having left, every day I was walking around wondering how I was still alive, wondering if I
You
even
were walking around like a
was alive.
zombie.
Yeah.
You would say what's up to me and keep walking. I was like, all right, fuck you. Seriously.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, whatever.
And that's how I was going about my work day because
It was the fog.
nothing made sense from the moment I woke up. I'm like, this wasn't the life I bought at the life store. So to say, I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't my life. And now I'm finally back in and I wake up and I look around and I look at myself and I have my thoughts of all things. I'm like, oh, these are my thoughts. This is something I actually
Those
believe.
are your thoughts.
Those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
They're not thoughts that are
Not her thoughts.
Nope.
Not the narcissist's thoughts.
Mine.
These are yours, and they haven't been altered. They haven't been skewed.
No, and they're now even much stronger in their convictions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's life on the other side.
There is life. There's a greater life on the other side of narcissistic
yeah,
abuse.
it's better. It's great.
But you have to do the work.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And it's tough, and the best thing I can say is just endure it. Because if you've survived them, and they literally didn't physically kill you as a discard, you can survive every day of getting through it. So just know that, never give up hope in it. It does get better. And if they didn't kill you, they won't. So, yeah.
Thanks for spending time with us today. It's fucking awesome, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you. This dude literally saved my life. Was doing it for a lot of you too. So
once this happens, you start attracting everybody that needs your help. And again, it's your responsibility.
Literally 6 months after it happened, and I told my buddy, no, not even 6 months. We met in March, and I saw my buddy 2-3 weeks later. I was like, hey, that girl, she was a narcissist sociopath or psychopath. I'm like, I figured it out. He's like, oh, I dated one of them too. She did this, this, and this. She used to love bomb me.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, this is how real is this
happens
shit?
all the time. It's fucking real. And there's not enough information about it.
No.
And if
not
you
at all.
haven't gone through it, you're going to dismiss it. You're not going to want to hear it.
Nope.
Which is what your friends do.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear the shit. They just
Yeah,
blow
people
you
who
off.
haven't been through it are just like, what? No, you're just
They
you
think
just
you're
have one-itis
they think
or
you're
something.
obsessed.
They think you're nuts, but we're not. We're alive.
Cool, man. Thanks again. So this is Dan,
Yes.
survivor, thriver.
On the other sider.
Hey, I love that.
There it
I
is.
love that. If you got some value today, please leave a like on the video. Let me know down in the comments if you shared any experience similar to Dan. Guys, thanks for your support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe now.
Click it.
And the little link below right here, you can get yourself a free ebook, 5 Steps of Going No Contact with a Psychopath Narcissist. Click on that, download it straight to your phone, read it 1,000 times. You need to get that information engraved in your brain. No fucking contact. No fucking contact. That's the
Zero
only way.
contact.
You got to get these predators out of your life. Thanks for your support. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, man. Let's do it.
Stay strong, stay on the rise. See you guys next time.